Brothers, good evening. It's good to be with you wherever you are joining us this evening, whether it's in the United States, North America, or somewhere else across the world. It's always a pleasure to be in the company of good men, and we certainly hope, on behalf of the Rubicon Masonic Society, that this presentation tonight re-energizes you or keeps you energized towards the true purpose of Freemasonry. I want to thank you again for joining with us this evening. I want to let you know that this is our 70th episode tonight of our virtual Masonic education discussions, almost consecutively since we started in 2020. Our series is entitled The 21st Century Conversations on Freemasonry. For those of you who are returning visitors, you know our protocol and our agenda for the evening. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we welcome you. We hope that you enjoy the education and discussion tonight and encourage you to participate if you feel so obliged. And finally, anyone that may be watching this video online as it is being recorded, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel so that you never miss a monthly episode of our Masonic education discussions. And if you ever have an interest in joining, if you are a Freemason, you can do so live by RSVPing at rubiconmasonicsociety.com/RSVP. Very special thank you, as always, goes to the men behind the scenes at the Ware Lodge of Research, the Rubicon Masonic Society, and of course, Lexington Lodge No. 1. These brothers are very special to me, and I can't thank them enough for all of the effort and support that they put in behind the scenes to help make everything we do here tonight possible. The officers of the Rubicon Masonic Society are Worshipful Brother John Bizak, Worshipful Brother Dan Kemble, and Worshipful Brother Alan Martin. My name is Brian Evans, and we will now proceed with the business of the evening. Worshipful Brother Alan Martin, Chaplain, will you please deliver the opening devotion this evening?
Gentlemen, let's pray. Grand Architect of the universe, we ask for your blessing this evening as we gather to continue our exploration of Freemasonry. Bless us with open minds so that we might be better enabled to receive, understand, and apply new knowledge in such a manner that leads us to become better men and Masons, allowing us to work for your great purposes through Masonry. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
Thank you, Brother Chaplain. Brothers and friends, the purpose of our Masonic education is simple. It aims to help us to try to become better men, always devoted to our family, our faith, our friends, our country. May we all come together tonight to learn, to subdue our passions, to discipline our minds, and to strive to improve ourselves through the tools of Freemasonry. Any opinions expressed during this virtual education will be those of the presenter or participant. They do not necessarily reflect the views of any lodge or Grand Lodge or the Rubicon Masonic Society. By participating with us tonight, you do consent to our guidelines, and our full disclaimer can always be found at rubiconmasonicsociety.com/disclaimer. Brothers and friends, you know these are not tiled meetings. Masons and non-Masons are, of course, more than welcome to attend and participate. So please always be mindful that anything discussed should always be suitable for Masons of all degrees as well as non-Masons. We expect gentlemanly manners at all times. No alcohol, no smoking, no eating, no foul language permitted, no discussion of politics or religion at any time. Attendees may be removed if not following this protocol, please. In effort to best assure that our meetings are as enjoyable for everyone as possible, we respectfully request, first of all, that everyone keep their microphones muted. Remember that the attire for each meeting is coat and tie. Please type your name and any appropriate Masonic title next to your video so you can help identify yourself to others. If you're not a Mason, you can simply type guest after your name. Please enable your video camera. We do like to see you as long as you're dressed appropriately. Please reduce background noises. Turn off other computer programs to eliminate distractions. And like I said, please keep your microphone muted unless called upon. Tonight we have a very special presenter for you. Look forward to his presentation very much. And I will now pass the reins over to Worship Brother Bizak. Would you please do the honors of introducing our special guest for the evening? Looks like Worship Brother Bizak might be experiencing some technical difficulties. Worship Brother Dan Kemble, would you please be so kind as to fill in at the moment for this introduction.
All right. I think I figured out how to unmute myself. Good evening, brothers. We are indeed honored this evening to have worshipful brother Donald Carducci with us. He's going to be speaking this evening on the topic of Is Freemasonry Still Relevant in the 21st Century? He is the master of victory through Harmony Lodge number 94 in Montreal. I have had the pleasure of hearing Worshipful Brother Carducci give a presentation at MRF conference. I know that you're going to be in for a treat this evening. And Worshipful Brother Donald, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother. That picture is it's quite old, as you can probably tell. But thank you very much for that introduction. I will share my screen momentarily.
Yes, go ahead.
Right, just gotta make sure. Let me know when you see my screen.
Yes, we do.
All right, very good. Just move a few things over. All right, that's good. So thank you, Brendan, for joining this evening. The topic I'd like to speak on is the question of whether Freemasonry is still relevant in the 21st century. Speculative Masonry is a centuries-old fraternal organization that has remained largely unchanged since the formation of the first Grand Lodge of London and Westminster in 1717. Throughout its long history, Freemasonry has imparted life-changing insights to its members that have helped to shape the character of men as well as the cultural beliefs and norms of entire countries. Does Freemasonry still have something of value to offer men in the 21st century is a frequent question among brethren. To help us answer this question, we should first briefly examine the origins of Freemasonry and the impact it has had throughout its long history up until the 21st century. Operative Masonry has its origins in the trade guilds of antiquity, the laborers that built the great edifices of ancient times, such as the Great Pyramids, the Temple of Solomon, and the great cathedrals of the Middle Ages. Many of these remarkable structures have withstood the ravages of time and war, which is a testament to the constructive principles which were employed to build them. The secret art of geometry in days past was known only to a select group known as stonemasons. They organized themselves into bodies known as lodges and were tasked with building these great edifices. Many of them would spend their entire careers laboring on a single structure, which would take several decades to complete. Those masons that were permitted to travel from site to site freely to apply their craft were referred to as Freemasons. Today, although operative masonry still exists as a trade, it no longer represents the focus of modern Freemasonry. In the late 1600s and early 1700s, lodges began to admit non-operative masons as members. The precise reasons for this is unknown. Perhaps they needed the financial support of such men who were often men of means, or perhaps they needed the skills to record the lodge's histories and activities, as many of the operative masons of the time were illiterate and could not write. Regardless of the reason, many non-operative masons were slowly admitted as members of the lodge and eventually came to outnumber the operative masons. It is during this time that Freemasonry underwent a radical evolution in its purpose. A transition from an operative craft, where laborers worked on the building of edifices, to a speculative craft, where masons labored on themselves to build themselves physically, mentally, and spiritually into better men. This period of Freemasonry saw a shift from an operative philosophy of Masonry based on the principles of geometry and architecture to one of introspection, influenced by the ancient teachings of Egyptian, Greek, Romanic mystery schools, the philosophies of Aristotle and Hermes Trismegistus, as well as the schools of thought that characterized the Enlightenment period. Did Freemasonry adopt these changes as a natural progression in its original teachings, or because such topics were of interest during that period of time, cannot really be said with certainty. What we do know is that these teachings and philosophies heavily influenced the foundations of speculative masonry at the time and up until the mid 1900s. Oops, sorry. Following the end of World War II, Masonry witnessed an exponential increase in membership as soldiers returning home from the war were seeking an organization where they could maintain that feeling of camaraderie and brotherhood that they had experienced during the war. Masonry, being a fraternity, naturally provided this opportunity, and as a result, thousands flocked to its doors to become members. By the 1960s, the boom in Masonic membership began to dissipate, and North American Freemasonry began to see a slow decrease in membership that accelerated over the coming years, with the passing of elderly brethren and a dramatic decrease in the number of new applicants asking to join the craft. In the United States of America, in 1959, there were more than 4 million members. 20 years later, by 1979, that number had declined to 3.3 million. And by 1999, there were only 1.9 million members. In 2019, the count was just above 1 million members. Canada saw a similar decrease. In 2006, there were approximately 200,000 Freemasons, with many provinces having fewer than 2,000 Freemasons in their jurisdictions. And since then, the number has continued to decrease. Many Grand Lodges in North America find this decline in membership alarming and have implemented various programs and campaigns to attract new members in an attempt to reverse this trend. The decline in membership has forced many lodges to either merge or face the prospect of going dark. Some have argued that Freemasonry's beliefs and their insistence on remaining a male-only fraternity is outdated, not in alignment with today's progressive cultural views. All of this has led many brothers to question whether Freemasonry is still relevant in today's society. Before I share my insights into this question, let's take a moment to look at some of the cultural and societal norms of the society we live in today. The primary means by which most of us acquired our information about what's happening in the world today is through the news media, either televised or through printed form. Now, one cannot deny that news media outlets differ in their respective coverage of events depending on their political leanings or self-interests. However, one can say with conviction that regardless of which news media we choose to follow, one thing is clear: there is much divisiveness among the people of the world. This divisiveness spans political, social, economic, religious, racial, and nationalistic lines. The war in Ukraine and the Middle East, the various ideological groups that have arisen in countries such as Germany, the UK, Italy, the United States, and Canada, all aggressively pushing their respective views and villainizing those who oppose them. Politicians from opposing political parties who once sat down together and discussed the differing views to reach a compromise now prefer to volley insults and engage in shouting matches. We are solicited to take a determinate position on a variety of topics and to aggressively defend those positions against all who may not share our views. The well-known expression, "You are either with us or against us," seems to paraphrase this moment in our history. Our leaders seem to have forgotten how to engage in respectful discord with one another, to value differing viewpoints as an opportunity to grow and expand their horizons. Like a contagion, this temperament seems to spread to other members of society as they look to their leaders for cues as to how they ought to behave and what to believe. Furthermore, our reliance on technology, such as mobile phones and the various social media platforms that accompany them, has fostered a culture of self-obsession and self-gratification among many of the Generation Zs. One has only to look at the popularity of such social media platforms as TikTok, Instagram, YouTube to observe this trend firsthand. Many are focused on themselves and they tend to ignore those around them that are in need. Many of these young people are referred to as influencers, because they tend to influence the behavior of others in society, not always for the best. This is not to say that the problem is isolated to Gen Zs alone. Many others from various generations have come to display what psychologists refer to as the bystander effect. This effect is characterized by a belief that it is unnecessary for a person to help someone in need because someone else in the crowd will help. As you can expect, this effect is much more prevalent in groups. I'd like to play for you a short video from YouTube of an experiment that was conducted on the streets of London, England, that demonstrates this effect so that you may have a better understanding of its impact in our society.
Place like this street in New York City, if you were unfortunate enough to be the victim of a crime or taken ill unexpectedly, you might think that surrounded by all these people, someone would intervene. After all, isn't there safety in numbers? Psychologists say no. Research suggests that often a victim is less likely to receive assistance when surrounded by a group rather than a single bystander. When people are in a crowd, it's easier to pass the buck. It's what psychologists call the diffusion of responsibility. Liverpool Street Station in London, a busy thoroughfare for commuters. Unknown to these passers-by, Peter is an actor. As part of an experiment on bystander apathy, he's pretending to be ill. Help. Help. How long before he gets help? Helping would be inconvenient or even risky. He lies there for more than 20 minutes and no one raises an eyebrow.
It's always very distressing to watch situations like this where people are obviously suffering and no one's actually helping them. But what we have here is two conflicting rules. One is the rule that we ought to help, and the other is the rule that we ought to do what everybody else is doing. And here you have effectively a group of strangers who are exerting the pressure not to intervene, not to help. And it's very difficult to rebel.
Ruth, another actor, takes Peter's place. How long before she receives help? Four minutes later, and 34 people have passed without stopping.
Well, people don't really want to know. They just haven't got the time. But they have got the time. They just don't want to get involved.
Unwittingly, these strangers have silently formed a temporary group with a rule: don't get involved. They're afraid to stand out from the crowd and won't take action if no one else does. This woman has clearly spotted Ruth, but she conforms to the rule and does nothing. Watch what happens, though, when someone else helps.
You all right?
Yes, thank you.
Sure, you look a bit flicky, you know what I mean?
She suddenly finds herself in a different group with a new rule: to help.
Shut up. You all right? Yeah. Sure.
First, I thought she was dead. Then I sort of checked to see if she was breathing or not. And I looked around and I couldn't believe that no one had noticed her because there was a bloke sat there just absorbed in reading a newspaper.
This time, Peter's dressed as a respectable gentleman. Now that his dress is in keeping with those around him, how long before he's rescued?
I'm all right.
6 seconds. She even calls him sir, and suddenly everyone's a good Samaritan.
Do you suffer from epilepsy?
No.
While you're lying on the floor in the rain?
Because he's part of the right group. Everyone wants to help.
I would just hate to be in his position of feeling ill and nobody helping and walking past. So I'd just like to check that he was okay. But I thought, well, it's wet, so he must really be ill because he's going to ruin his suit anyway.
This short video demonstrates several social norms. Obviously, the one is the aforementioned bystander effect, which I've already explained. However, it may be worth considering why such a phenomenon exists in our society. Could it be an extreme extension of the social belief that people should mind their own business and not intrude in the lives of others? That we should look out for ourselves and not really be concerned about others? This implies an absence of charity towards our fellow man. It's difficult to say, especially when you consider other social norms that are demonstrated in the video. When the same actor is wearing a fine suit, we see that people do render him assistance almost immediately, within 6 seconds, because they can relate to him as being part of the same social group. They associate his outward appearance with a higher social standing and possibly value. What does this imply about our belief in the equality of men? Finally, we come to perhaps one of the social norms of modern society that troubles me the most personally, the ambiguity with what is truth. We find ourselves living in a world of alternative facts, where it's no longer easy to discern truth from falsehood, the latter often being presented as the former. For the purpose here, my purpose here again is not to call out any particular group or individual. The reality is that this problem is present across groups, regardless of their political, religious, racial, or even social economic ideologies. My objective is to highlight the tendency of people to accept statements made by others as truth rather than taking the time to apply their own critical thinking to the subject in question to discover the truth for themselves. Now, I probably painted a pretty dismal picture of society in general. This was necessary to some extent in order to be able to consider the question, is Freemasonry still relevant in today's society? And to better appreciate what it has to offer mankind. But I want to make clear that by no means am I implying that everyone is displaying these characteristics. There are many, many good people in our society that display qualities of character that are to be admired or even emulated. But we can't deny that there are some who are in positions of influence who display less desirable characteristics, and perhaps because they are in positions of influence, are the ones that get more of the media's attention. And this can have a negative impact on society at large, given that most of us acquire our information through media sources. So what can Freemasonry do to remedy this situation, if anything? Freemasonry in general is defined as a beautiful system of morality veiled in allegory and illustrated by science. It is founded on 3 principal tenets: brotherly love, relief, and truth. Brotherly love teaches us to live in harmony together and to respect one another's views and opinions. We are reminded that fundamentally, we all originate from the same source, the great creator of all, regardless of what we choose to name him or call him. Relief teaches us to show love and charity towards others. And by so doing, in truth, we're showing love towards ourselves and to that great creator from which we all emanate. Freemasonry teaches us that there is one undeniable truth and that we must persevere in our search of it. We must not be deterred by falsehoods, but continuously question what we are told and exercise critical thinking. Most importantly, Freemasonry reminds us that what is truly important in life is not material wealth, but spiritual understanding. It prepares us for the next life to come. It does this through its teachings, communicated via its many allegories and symbols. Take, for example, the 4 cardinal virtues of Freemasonry. And they're not unique to Freemasonry. They are, in some cases, predate Freemasonry. Those are temperance, fortitude, prudence, and justice, and are just as important, if not more important today, as they were in centuries past. Temperance is defined as moderation in action, thought, or feeling, moderation in indulgence of appetites or passions. Temperance cautions us to keep our passions under control and not to engage in excessive behavior that may lead to ruin. Fortitude, which is synonymous to strength of will or courage, is defined as having the strong will in the face of pain or adversity. The courage of character to do what is right, even when it's not the popular course of action. Prudence is defined as the ability to govern and discipline oneself using reason. In the entered apprentice charge of the English emulation rite, a brother is told to let prudence direct him, which essentially counsels him to let reason direct his actions and not rush to conclusions that often lead to incorrect decisions or judgments. Aristotle defined the virtue of justice as the character of justice, with which citizens act justly and desire to do what is just. A brother is instructed in the entered apprentice charge to let justice be the guide of all his actions. In other words, to ensure that he treats others fairly and does what is right by them. These four virtues, although defined separately in the entered apprentice charge, are closely interrelated with one another. Temperance, the most basic of the four virtues, is to be mastered first. Temperance allows us to control our passions, rather than letting them control us. Once we've mastered temperance, we will have the strength or fortitude to resist the temptations that we may face in our daily life, and to do the right thing even if in the face of adversity. Having control over our passions and the fortitude to resist temptations, reason slowly begins to take hold and direct our actions. We begin to exercise prudence before acting. We apply critical thinking to our decision-making process, weigh all the facts available to us to ensure that we make the proper decision and act correctly. The end result is that our decisions are more likely to be correct and just, and we finally arrive at the most noble of all the four cardinal virtues, justice. Likewise, there is much that we can learn from the working tools of a Freemason. For the purpose of this presentation, I will only focus on 7 in particular. The 24-inch gauge teaches us the importance of maintaining balance in our lives. Balance is the key to survival of all life. There are countless examples of this in the world around us. Humans inhale oxygen to survive and exhale carbon dioxide. Plants require carbon dioxide to survive and generate oxygen in turn in our environment. Similarly, successful human relationships are based on the principle of balance in our interactions with one another. A give and take, if you will. How many of us can say we would be truly happy in a relationship where we're always the one that is giving and the others are always taking? The lesson of balance is a vital one for us to understand in order to properly interact with others in our society and with our world in general. It counters the all or nothing mentality that seems to have taken hold in many of today's societies. The common gavel gives us the importance of taking action to bring about the outcome we desire, that we must work towards what we desire. Many of us have desired to lose weight, for example, only to fall short of realizing that outcome. Why is this? Often it's simply because we fail to take effective actions to achieve our desired outcomes. Desire alone is meaningless unless we are prepared to take the necessary action to realize it. The common gavel reminds us that action or effort is necessary for us to achieve our goals and to bring about the change we desire. But is action alone all that's necessary to achieve our goals and bring about the change we desire? To return to my previous example of our desire to lose weight, how many of us have taken the action of joining a gym, for example, only to quit 2 or 3 months later? For us to successfully achieve our desired outcome, we need to persevere in our actions. And to persevere in our actions must be effective in producing the outcomes we desire. So think about it for a moment. If you're performing an action repeatedly and you're not getting the results you're expecting or hoping for, will you persevere in performing that action? Most likely you won't. And to be effective and produce the results we expect, our actions must be properly defined and focused. The chisel reminds us of the importance of focused action in achieving our desired outcomes. The chisel was a tool used by the stonemason to focus the strike of his gavel with precision. For the modern-day speculative masonry, it symbolizes the importance of focusing his efforts by devising a detailed plan that directs his actions so that he can successfully achieve his desired outcome. Many of us often know what we want, but we don't take the time to properly define a plan of action to help us successfully achieve our outcome. As a result, we often fall short. So if we go back to the example that I used previously, joining a gym is not enough, but defining an exercise schedule coupled with a healthy balanced diet, and more importantly, finding a workout buddy that will encourage you and keep you motivated during difficult times will increase your chances of persevering and ultimately successfully achieving your desired outcome. Action without a clear plan to focus our efforts is doomed to fail. It was Ben Franklin who said, "Failing to plan is planning to fail." The chisel reminds us of the important role that perseverance through focused action plays on successful achievement of our desired outcomes. The level reaches us with, or teaches us that we are all from the same stock, that we are all equal in what really matters, regardless of the wealth and status. This concept is of such great importance that it is embedded in the very Constitution of the United States of America and has had an inspiration on countless democratic countries around the globe. A society that is founded on this concept of equality is one that will truly flourish and prosper. In speculative masonry, the trowel is the working tool of a master mason, and it's used symbolically to spread love and kindness, which will unite the brethren of the order together in peace, harmony, and brotherly love. The trowel has long been a symbol of Freemasonry, of the power to bind brethren together in unity. It speaks of how much stronger we are when we come together in unity and work together to build a better world for all. It brings to mind the well-known phrase, "United we stand, divided we fall." It is a caution to avoid division and foster unity for the good of all. It's a truly important lesson, I should think, in today's society. And finally, we get to the last of the two tools. And they are the square and compasses, the well-known symbols of Freemasonry that communicate the abstract means and ends of the science in the most clear and comprehensive manner. The square is a symbol of morality. It reminds us to regulate our actions so that we act towards others in the same respectful manner as we would want them to act towards us. The compasses remind us that to circumscribe our conduct and to keep our passions in due bounds when interacting with others. The interesting thing about the compasses is that they expand and create an increasingly larger circle around its center point. As we continue to develop and expand our circle outwards through our journey in Freemasonry, the square reminds us to continue to evaluate how we treat others at each step of our development to ensure that we continue to treat others properly and fairly. Another important symbol in Freemasonry is that has much to teach mankind is the beehive. Freemasons are told that the beehive is meant to represent the concept of industry, the importance of continuing to work hard to achieve our objectives and not to remain complacent or become lazy in our endeavors. A beehive consists of thousands of bees working together towards one unified goal. Bees are in all likelihood the most hardworking creatures in existence. During its lifetime, a bee will fly 800 kilometers, and it will work itself so hard that it will drop dead from exhaustion just 3 weeks after its first flight. That's truly remarkable, but what's even more amazing is that all of this effort is not for the bee's own benefit, but rather for the benefit of the hive or its community. So another important lesson the beehive imparts to us is the importance of working hard, not only for ourselves and our own benefit, but for the benefit of our community. It teaches us the importance of helping others, not just ourselves. The beehive is quite possibly the best example of a harmonious society there is. Thousands of bees working together in close proximity without discord towards one unified goal in perfect harmony. The beehive teaches us the importance of working together as an industrious manner for the benefit of the community, not merely ourselves. The importance of conducting the work in a spirit of group harmony. So, brethren, we come full circle to the question that we asked at the very start of this talk. Is Freemasonry still relevant in the 21st century? I hope you will agree with me that the resounding answer to this question is yes. There is much of the men of today can learn from the teachings imparted through the allegories and symbolism of Freemasonry, much more than can be covered in one presentation or even 100 presentations. the lessons of Freemasonry remain just as relevant for today's men as they were in the early days of speculative Masonry. You are no doubt familiar with the well-known phrase, Freemasonry makes good men better men. I would put it to you that this is not entirely accurate. A good man does not become a better man simply by being a member of the craft. Freemasonry fosters the development of the very best character traits. It provides a man with the tools and the means to improve himself, but it's up to each man to pick up those tools and use them to work on himself, to build a better version of himself. The hope is that as we become better men by integrating the lessons of Freemasonry into our daily life, we become examples to others in our community and begin to have a positive influence on societal norms and behaviors, ultimately creating a more inclusive, harmonious, and benevolent society. Imagine the impact on social and cultural norms if this were to occur on a global scale. As Masons, it is our responsibility, or I should say, our duty, to ensure that the lessons of Freemasonry remain available to future generations of men, to give them the opportunity to positively shape their character as well as influence the social norms of the society they live in for the betterment of all mankind. I would like to thank the Rubicon Masonic Society for their gracious invitation to come speak to you this evening, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Worship Brother. Outstanding presentation. Let me take the screen back. Okay. Well done. Great presentation. Great reminder of why we all became Freemasons and why we continue to remain Freemasons. Brethren, this is the time of the evening where we certainly would appreciate any participation, questions, specifically regarding this topic for our presenter. So if you do have an interest in asking a question, you can click the button that raises your virtual hand. You can chime in if you feel it's the appropriate time or just speak outright. You can also put your question or comment inside of the meeting chat and we will call on you appropriately. So please at this time, if you have questions or comments, this would be a great time to do that. I'll try to kick things off a little bit. Worship Brother Donald, so I'm just curious, the nature and the inception of this presentation in your mind. Where did that come from? Like, how did this presentation, is it still relevant in the 21st century? What spawned this presentation for you personally? Is there an event or something that took place?
Yes, it's a conversation with my wife. So I'm very active in Masonry. So I tend to visit a lot of lodges. I tend to interact in a lot of the Masonic events. My wife obviously asked the question, well, why do you go out all these nights in the evening? What's the reason for this? What's the benefit of Freemasonry in today's society? She did not see the benefit for it. So, and speaking with other brethren, the question does rise. Is it still relevant in today's society, considering that we are seeing this decline in membership across the board? I think the only increase in membership we're seeing is more in the South American countries, where there seems to be a little bit of a slight increase in the younger men that flock towards the craft. But surely in North America and in Europe, we're seeing a decline. So the question does come forward as to what is the purpose of Masonry in today's society? Is there still a purpose for Masonry in today's society? And I think education is important. That's why what the Rubicon Masonic Society and other societies and other groups are doing in bringing that education, not only to Freemasonry, but to opening it up to the general public, is a service, because it permits us to pass our message and to show them that we do have something of significance to share with you, and that will help shape the future of our society. If these values are brought in and integrated into the leaders of tomorrow, we will see a positive impact on our society. Um, and this presentation that I did is to recall and to highlight two brethren who have, asking themselves that question: is there a purpose to Freemasonry today? They're quite definitively, there is a purpose to it, and it's up to us, each of us, to seek that purpose out and to spread that knowledge to to the world in general. And there's secrets in Freemasonry. Yes, there are. But what I talked about this evening, these are not secrets. This is information you can acquire by reading books, and it clearly points to qualities of character that all men should seek and share with their communities.
Mhm. I think when people that are not Freemasons hear the word secrets, it obviously is an assumption that they're bad. And they develop their own conclusions, like you said, without doing their own research and critical thinking. What would you mind to go into a little bit deeper when you showed the video of the bystander effect, which was fascinating to see that. And I'm sure if that was recorded today, it would probably be just about the same, maybe even worse. Looks like it was recorded a little while ago. Can you just go in a little bit deeper of the thread that ties the bystander effect in with Freemasonry again a little bit further? The similarity of that analogy with Freemasonry?
Well, in Freemasonry, if we go back to the second tenet of Freemasonry, which is relief, we are taught to give charity to our fellow man. And oftentimes that understanding of charity is through financial means, donations of capital. But the reality is the most important commodity you will ever give someone is your time, because that is the one commodity which is not renewable. Um, what Freemasonry teaches us is that we work together for the benefit of the whole. A lodge cannot survive with one brother. It is all of the brethren working together to make it successful. And that is true of society as well. I mean, the society of one is not a society. So we have to work together in unison in order to make sure that we have a harmonious, benevolent society for all. Freemasonry's lessons is that it tells us don't necessarily be worried about just yourself and look out for yourself, but look out for the rest of the members of your society, especially those in need. Because by helping the weakest of our society, we are actually helping ourselves because we're making our society stronger. And that is, I think, one of the most crucial lessons that we have to learn from Freemasonry. There are many of our symbolism and allegories teach that lesson. We have in the emulation rite, we have the northeast corner, which is a charity charge, essentially. And in other appendant bodies, without going into details, that concept of charity and helping your fellow man is oftentimes brought back. So it's a very important lesson that we have to integrate into our core, so that when we bring this out to society, I mean, as I said, we will be examples for how members of society should conduct themselves. If we want to set the example that we should share and we should help each other out, then that is the example we should be setting.
Mhm.
In the video is a perfect example. All it took was one person to go help the woman, and then you started seeing others coming in to help. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, will we be that one person to set the example that will encourage others to flock and emulate that example?
Great. Yeah, there it is. Great. In your opinion, what role would you say, if any, I'm sure it does the public, let's just say, misunderstanding of Freemasonry play in the relevancy of Freemasonry's future, in your opinion?
I think it plays a crucial role because they don't see the value we bring, because they misconstrue us as just either a boys' club, uh, just a fraternity like you would see in colleges, as as playing dress up, so to speak, in some cases. I've heard that one as well. But the reality of it is they're looking at us from a superficial perspective, much like in the video where the passerbys were looking at the actor that was wearing regular street clothes from a superficial perspective. And as soon as you put him in a nice fine suit, 6 seconds later, they come and they see if he needs assistance. So we've also said in Freemasonry that we don't go after candidates. We let them come to us. And it's important because it shows that the candidate is coming of his own free will and accord, and that we're not, asking him or coercing him in any way to come towards us. But there must be a middle ground somewhere there where we can share the beauty of our craft without necessarily trying to solicit others to join us. I think if we show the beauty that our craft has to teach the men in our society, I think that will by consequence have them come to us to learn about it. There's nothing wrong with talking about Freemasonry. I've seen many misconceptions in the craft itself among brethren that, well, we can't talk about the working tools. We can't say anything about that because that's secrets. So there's a misconception as what is secret. As far as I'm concerned, the only secrets of Freemasonry are the signs, grips, tokens that we use to identify one another, to each other. That we can say is the secrets of Masonry, although how secret they are is debatable. But that would be the conspiracy. Everything else you can find out there reading, and many Masons have shared this in books. And I think it's important that we share the lessons of the symbols, of the allegories, because it's that way that we're going to be able to reach those members of society, especially the younger men who will be our future, and help shape their character so that they will be positive influences to those that will shape our future. Otherwise, the alternative is if we don't present ourselves and what we have to offer, others with less attractive traits, for example, will fill that void. And that's what we're seeing today. We're seeing a lot of this very superficial marketing, so to speak, about social media platforms, more materialistic approach than we did, let's say, going back 50 years or 60 years ago. Now, some may say that that's progress. Is it really? Are we better off today than we were 50 or 60 years ago? Certainly, technologically wise, we have better technology, we have more advancements in science, but the human condition, is it much better today than it was 60 years ago? I mean, one thing that amazed me was I was recently watching a television with my wife, and an advertisement came on for Audible, and the pitch that the spokesperson was saying is, "I don't like to read, so I just listen to books." I was taken aback. I said, "You don't like to read?" I mean, that's like one of the privileges that we have in our society is that we can go to school, we can learn to read. And I'm sure there's countless children around the world or men around the world that didn't have that privilege. And given that privilege, they would just jump at it. And here we're saying, well, I don't like to read. I just prefer to have someone read it to me. So it's sort of that. I think we've kind of taken several steps forward from a technological perspective, but from the human condition perspective, I see that we've kind of maybe regressed a little bit. And it's important that we try to share what we know about Freemasonry that allows us to make that advancement again in the human condition.
When you use the word relevant, in your mind, do you see relevant pertaining to men, Freemasons, or relevant to society?
Relevant to society.
Society.
But it is, as I was saying in my presentation, the we will become examples to others in society. And then that's how you shape a society. You have one that becomes an example, and that is the one that they will flock to, the one they will try to emulate. And that's the one that if we're like thousands of men, millions of men worldwide that have strength of character, that have those characteristics and those traits that are taught to us by Freemasonry, and they are examples to others, that will shape the social norm and the cultural beliefs of a society. You're seeing it today in the very, especially in North American society, we are seeing it in how our leaders talk will shape how others believe. Um, so it's important to say, well, what type of leaders are we looking for? And 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 to be very careful about those that we tend to follow. Do they emulate the character traits that we respect? And why don't they is the question we have to ask ourselves. What is it? I mean, it's not that they got up in the morning and said, this is the kind of person I'm going to be. They learned this. And where did they learn it from? That's the questions we need to ask ourselves. Do we want to be that that source of knowledge for these men to shape them into being uh, you know, benevolent influences on our society?
Mhm.
And we have a lot to teach the men in our society.
Maybe another question is society still relevant for Freemasonry?
I believe it is because, I mean, look, society is cyclical in a sense. We tend to repeat the same mistakes over and over again.
Sure.
We see this throughout history, and Freemasonry has endured countless centuries, well before 1717 when the first Grand Lodge was created. So if it's endured all of this time, clearly it has something of value worth preserving. The question is do we demonstrate that value to others in the society, or do we keep it to ourselves? And my point is that I think we need to demonstrate it to others in society so that they can see the beauty of it. And it's only through that spreading that knowledge will we get others to see the beauty and then come and be part of it. And then Freemasonry will continue again for another 300 plus years.
Mhm.
It would be a true shame if we were to lose that, because then future generations will have really lost something, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think that's one of the reasons why, as Rubicon, we have decided a while back to go ahead and publish these recordings online. So that way everyone could learn and hear from them, not just Freemasons. There are people that disagree with that, but like you said, I don't believe we're disclosing any secrets. There's nothing you can't find here that you can't find in a book or on the internet if you choose to look for it. So yeah, that's what I think so.
In a knowledge, good knowledge is useless if it's not shared.
Mhm. Brother Bruce, you have a question? Go ahead.
Not a question, but a comment, a reflection. Um, I want to say within the last month, maybe even the last couple weeks, one of the news programs that I listened to was talking about exactly the reading comment that Brother Carducci talked about. And I think that if I remember right, the person said that like 10 years ago, people were reading 5, 10 books a month or something like that. And especially children are down to like maybe 2 books a month, if that they just are not reading books. And where I experience it is most of them are looking at a certain instrument and using their fingers to communicate. They don't even learn to communicate face to face anymore. And it's a real shame. I've got a friend who her son is 4 years old and she's already given him a tablet, and he was just spending so much time, and she was not even communicating with him. She was more yelling at him when he was screaming, because she didn't, I guess, had not developed those mothering skills and learning to talk to him other than to yell at him. And I found that a little ashamed. And at times, I guess I did step in and say, maybe you need to talk to him, not yell quite as much. And that, so it's a shame our society has gone the way it is. And I wrote a thing because here in Cincinnati, I know our one news channel and our chief of police and our Hamilton County Sheriff have been going out to talk to groups in the community about what can be done about some of the violence going on. And it's like, this is an exact example I want to expose them to and say, here's the part of the problem. You got to deal with the bystander effect. And, I think it was on a Sunday morning we were watching, and a guy did something over in Africa where he studied the situation and found out that the women took on the situation of, and they called it the grandmother's bench or something like that. And there's a grandmother that sits at the bench, and she is open to talking with anybody that sits down and opens a conversation. And it has drastically helped their crime go down. I said, what a beautiful effect, that somebody took a little bit of action. And it's not that great a thing, just sitting at a bench and being willing to talk to another human being. Thank you very much for your time, brothers.
Essentially, it's important. The lessons we learn from Freemasonry to take action in order to produce an outcome. Even in the darkest times, there is light. There is a possibility of turning things around, but we need to take that action to do it. And the lessons we learn from the Common Gavel teaches us that lesson, that if you want an outcome, you need to actually take an action to do it. And you need to have focused actions in order to have a clear understanding of what you want to do in order to achieve the results you want. I mean, we have countless examples of this in society. During the 1980s, we had a lot of drunk driving incidents. And then we had Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. That organization started small, and now it's nationwide. It started in the United States. It spread to Canada. We have it as well. So it shows just a small, pebble in the lake will have ripples that can spread for quite a distance. And it only takes one small change. Changing one individual can have a serious impact on society.
Yeah. Richard, I believe you were with us last month as well. But go ahead. You have a question?
I actually had a comment just to piggyback off that. By the way, great presentation. I always appreciate it. I was just going to say, not being a Mason yet, but still being someone that studies a lot of it, I would say we are taught to only use our senses and ignore our heart a lot. right? I think in society, I think a big problem is we are very married to our five senses of this reality. And we are taught not to think and feel from our heart and feel for those people. Being someone that works in construction, in a union, in a trade, I deal with a lot of people on the side of the street like that. And I don't think enough people have that interaction anymore. I think a lot of people just walk by like they did in that last video, and then COVID kind of pushed everything back towards with the technology of just being disconnected from other individuals. But I think the main problem with from music to movies to just social media, we're just really taught to just indulge and love our senses and not really think clearly with our heart. And I think the more we utilize these different exoteric teachings to activate our heart, then we'll be able to see the love throughout everything and be able to give love and be able to help our fellow man, help our fellow people, and help everyone else around us continue to strive to be better, to be a better society.
Yeah, well said. Richard, where are you from again?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I just went through my petition, and then the good of the order came to the House, and I should be getting voted in the next month.
Good.
So
good for you. Good luck on your journey.
Thank you.
Where's Brother Donald? This is a question. I'm just curious. For any men or Freemasons that may feel as though they've lost their way a little bit, what would you tell them about how to that Freemasonry can help them? That Freemasonry is relevant to still help them, re-engage their lives. The tools are there. The brothers are there. Any advice to a man who's a Freemason that may feel like he's kind of lost his way or he's struggling a bit?
Well, I think we have to remind them of the lessons that Freemasonry has to teach us. If we're struggling, we need to understand what he's struggling with, and just sometimes it's just listening to what their challenges that they're going through, and then helping them understand how Freemasonry can help them through those times is important. We're taught that what we think is probably the most important thing, challenges here, it's all relative. You may get upset that a rock hit your windshield and cracked your windshield. How relative is that? How really frustrating or important is that relative to someone who has, for example, is battling cancer?
Mm-hmm.
It's meaningless. So oftentimes what I tell them is that if you're struggling, put it into context. It may seem to you right now that that's the most important thing. It's the most critical thing. It's the most impactful things. But in reality, in the grander scope of things, it's minuscule. And what Freemasonry teaches us is not to look at the materialistic world as the end all. It's essentially just a stepping stone. It's a spark in our existence. The spiritual part is what's the most important part of that we need to recognize.
Mm-hmm.
That part of us, that's what we need to work on the most, because that is what's eternal. That is what's going to outlast all of what we see today in the world. So I think it's important that you put things in perspective. And that's what I try to do with brethren that I have these types of crises. And I've had brethren come to me and ask, well, I'm having a difficult time in Freemasonry. It's not what I thought it was. But what about it is not what you thought it was? Well, sometimes, there's certain brethren that may, take advantage of other brethren. Okay, but we're human. That's going to happen regardless of what organization you're going into. It's not like because you're a Freemason that you are somehow sanctified. You're never going to make a mistake in your life. People are human. So patience is what's required. And when a brother errs or you find someone else who errs in society, it's important rather than to condemn, but is to assist them, to get them to become better people. So speak with them, see what you can do to help them, work through their challenges. If they're acting in a certain way, sit down with them, try to understand why they act that way, and what you can do to help them turn a leaf, so to speak. And so it's patience is important, understanding is important, um, and more. We have to live the lessons that we're taught in Freemasonry. If we integrate them into our daily life, then we will start to see a difference in the way society perceives us. And I strongly believe that it will have a positive influence on society.
Yeah, I agree. Well said. Brothers, the question is Freemasonry still relevant in the 21st century? I think it's probably more relevant now than ever. Bedford Jackson, you had a comment. Thought it was a good comment. Would you mind elaborating on that just a little bit?
Well, yes, Worshipful Brother Evans, and thank you, Worshipful Brother Donald, for your wonderful presentation. Brothers et al. And Rubicon Masonic Society. That comment came from yesterday, our Lodge of Research here in Nevada. We were talking about consciousness, and the way our society is shaped right now, we have a tendency to operate more in the subconscious because we're inundated with marketing and a fast-paced movement, and taking time to reflect on what circumstances we're in to make conscious decisions and have conscious activities is where sometimes we may find ourselves dropping the working tools. And the synopsis, the summary of it was that uh, we as men that sharpen our tools amongst ourselves to be able to have symbolism and meaning behind that. We have something that's an edge over society. So I think that we are the beacon that they're looking to see perform and that they can look up to. So yes, I do think that Freemasonry is highly relevant in today's society.
Great. I agree. Thank you for those comments. Thank you.
Yes.
Worst Brother Gerald, I couldn't agree more with your comment. Excellent, excellent presentation. A great reminder that what we need to do and be as Freemasons. So, Brother Donald, I hope you read that.
I did. Thank you, Brother Gerald. I really appreciate your words. They're very kind. But brethren, again, very important. We need to get over this. I don't want to call it a phobia, but we need to get over this fear of speaking about who we are in public. Because unless we spread the word of Freemasonry, all of that benevolence, that beauty that our craft holds, no one will ever hear it, except for the few members that join us. We need to spread that out, and and through that message, we will have members wanting to learn more and coming to our doors, asking to be admitted to learn more. But we shouldn't keep it only for the brethren that are here within our ranks. It's too an important a message to keep to ourselves. It needs to be spread out in the world. I mean, the very Constitution of the United States of America was founded on Masonic principles. What does that is the message that tells you that's what we need to do. We need to spread that out.
Yeah. Amen. Well said. Brethren, this was a very deep conversation. A lot to think about. Are there any other comments or questions for Worst Brother Donald? I mean, he hit the nail on the head. I think that's why we can all agree. Excellent. Well, Worst Brother Donald, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I can see you being on here again, and certainly would look forward to that. So, if anybody has any questions or would like to get in touch with you, anything you want to share or a way to get in touch with you if they would like to, do you want to put maybe your contact information in the chat perhaps? So if
I'll do
someone
that right now. Yes, absolutely.
or
Be more
you,
than happy to hear from any brother that wishes to get in contact with me.
yeah. Okay, great. All right. Well, again, thank you very much. We will proceed on with the closing part of the evening. And if anyone has any questions or would like to get in touch with Worst Brother Donald, he will put his information in the chat. Again, thank you. Okay. Brethren and friends, our next Masonic education is Monday, May 26th at 7 p.m. I don't have it in front of me and who our next presenter is. Worship Brother Dan, do you have that in front of you?
Worshipful Brother Brian, I do. And actually, Monday, May the 26th is Memorial Day. And we have bumped our May presentation to Tuesday, the 27th.
We did, didn't we? You're right.
It'll be at 7 o'clock, but it'll be our esteemed Rubicon brother, Brother Tim Avon, who will be sharing his thoughts with us about W.L. Wilmshurst's classic book, The Meaning of Masonry.
Great. Yep, good catch. You're right. Monday is Memorial Day, and we have moved it to Tuesday. So,
Brother Dan, how do you spell Tim's last name?
It is A, V as in Victor, E-N.
Very good. And what a great topic. You can't get better than Wilmshurst.
Brother Avon is an officer at Lexington Lodge No. 1. He is also a member of the Rubicon Masonic Society and Ware Lodge of Research. So certainly look forward to his presentation.
And what is the specific title of it?
I think his title relates back to a paper that he wrote, and I think it's just simply thoughts on the meaning of Masonry. And Worship Brother Jerry, I think I've got a copy of that paper. I'd be happy to send that to you and share it with you so you can have a little preview of that.
I would love to have that, Brother Dan, and I look forward to seeing you here in Southern California in November.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Okay, brethren and friends, Ware is raffling off this beautiful Kentucky long rifle. We are still trying to meet quota on some of our ticket sales, so please participate in this. You could have the chance to win this beautiful Kentucky long rifle. All of the details can be found at wowraffle.org. Only $50 per ticket. You are certainly allowed to purchase as many tickets as you would like. And we all proceeds do go to the Ware Lodge of Research, which is a nonprofit that continues to support Masonic education. So for those of you that have purchased a ticket, thank you. For those of you that have not yet, please go and do so. And all of the information is on that website. In addition, if you haven't already done so, we are having another Festa Board and conference in 2025. The theme of this year's conference and Festa Board is exploring the role of Masonic research lodges in the 21st century. This is led by Ware Lodge of Research this year. Rubicon Masonic Society is a supporting sponsor. You can go and find all details at rubiconmasonica.com/conference 2025. The Festa Board is Friday, September 19th, and the conference is all day on Saturday, September 20th, 2025, in Lexington, Kentucky at Spindletop Hall, which is that beautiful building that you often see in a lot of our pictures and videos. So seats are limited due to the location, so I strongly recommend and encourage that if you have any interest, you need to go ahead and make this booking as soon as possible. If you are ever looking for additional Masonic education, this is a great resource, thecraftsman.org, which is the primary website of our very own worshipful brother John Bizak, who is vice chair of the Rubicon Masonic Society. He is also worshipful master of the Ware Lodge of Research this year. Excellent resource for papers, books, articles, links, etc. So if you haven't already done so, please feel free to check out his website, thecraftsman.org. I think you'll find it very enjoyable. Additionally, if you are not a subscriber to the Philalethes Society journal, then this is something that I certainly think you might want to check out. It was established in 1928, and its primary goal is to constantly promote and publish the highest quality Masonic education and research that they believe is possible. I believe currently the annual subscription is only $60. It comes out quarterly. If it is slightly different, it's certainly not much. And all of the information can be found at rubiconmasonecsociety.com/Philalethes. So again, a great print resource that will get mailed to you on a quarterly basis. I think you'll definitely enjoy, get benefit from that if you're not already subscribed. A few more pieces of information to continue to share. The transactions of the Rubicon Masonic Society Volume 1 are still available, and they will continue to be available on Amazon. Information is found at rubiconmasonecsociety.com/transactions. So a great collection of Masonic papers written by many of the members of Rubicon Masonic Society and honorary members and friends and fellow Freemasons. So a great resource to add to your bookshelf. Of course, the Masonic table is something you certainly want to take a look at. It's on Amazon Prime. You can rent it or purchase it, and we hope you enjoy that. It'll give you a great sneak peek of what our festive boards will be like, especially if you come to the one in this September of 25. Brethren and friends, are there any other final comments before we proceed to close this evening? Great. Well, I'll offer just one. Worship Brother Donald, outstanding presentation. Really, really well put together. Thank you for the thought process and just the level of preparation into it. A great reminder of why we are all here this evening and why we strive to work so hard as Freemasons in our everyday lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Worship Brother Alan Martin, sir, will you please do the honors of delivering our closing devotion?
Brothers, please join me. Grand Architect of the universe, as we prepare to close our meeting this evening, we ask that you bless us with perpetual awareness of the principles instilled by our craft as we endeavor to fortify our abilities to be just and upright in all of our undertakings. Let us always be aware of the blessings we have received and from where those blessings emanate. These things we ask in your precious name. Amen.
So mote it be. Thank you. Thank you all again for joining us. Our next meeting is Tuesday, May 27th at 7 p.m. You do not need to RSVP again. You're already on our list. We will send you out a reminder the morning of with all of the Zoom information. If you know of anyone else that may be interested in joining with us, they can always RSVP at rubiconmasonecsociety.com/RSVP. Until next time, my brothers and friends, may we always be happy to meet, sorry to part, and happy to meet again. I have prepared a slight video tonight that I found online. I think you'll enjoy it. It's the short version of Stairway to Heaven, and it has a lot of meaning that is comparable to a lot of the things that we spoke about tonight, because you can't buy your way into heaven. It's a spiritual journey, and this song, if you look into it, has a lot of interesting esoteric meanings behind it. So hope you enjoy. It is the short version. Brothers, have a great night.